Alright, I want to show how to make 3D text in After Effects, both through the classic 3D rendering engine and the ray traced rendering engine, ultimately showing how powerful the ray traced engine can be at making true 3D text that you can do a lot of cool things with. But first, outside of ray traced, I want to show you how to use a workaround in the shatter effect to actually make something look 3D. And so first, let's start a new composition, Control N, and let's call it 3D text. And 1080-24 is fine. Background color black. Okay. So we have a new composition, and let's make some new text. Control T, and let's say Super Mario. All right. So now that we have our text, let's make a new solid, and the solid is going to be the actual color of your text. So since it's Mario, I'm going to make a red one, and okay, let's move that to the front. Okay, so now how to make this text actually look 3D. There's a workaround when using the shatter effect, so just type in shatter here and apply the shatter effect to your solid. So what this is doing, this effect is used to, shatter something. So if you can see, we can get rid of the text and what it looks like right now. All right, it will just shatter, and it's showing the wireframe of what's actually happening, because we're in the wireframe and forces view. If we go to rendered view, we can actually see what it would be doing, and just breaking apart bricks in this red background. So we don't want to use this. This is not what we want to do with the effect. What we want to do is first, if we go back to wireframe and forces, we want to get rid of this force. We don't actually want it to shatter. So how we do that, if we can see the force by creating a new camera, 35mm, fine, and going to the camera system, and we want to use the comp camera, push C, and we can actually see the force. Let's back up on it. So this is the force being applied for the shatter effect. We want to remove this. So if we go to force and then just push it back with the depth, we can get rid of that. So it will no longer shatter. Now, what we need to do is apply this shatter effect to our text. So if we go to shape and pattern is custom, and then our shatter map will actually go to our Super Mario text. And so right now, we are still seeing the wireframe view, so let's go to a rendered view. And if we use, the reason we're using the shadow effect is because it has extrusion depth. So if we just increase this, we now have 3D text. We can go all the way around it. And it doesn't look great. And here's where you run into problems with the classic 3D rendering, is you can't do a whole lot with this. I'll show you, you can actually make a light, spotlight, and if you make this solid background 3D, you can then actually move this light around and have it affect the text. But the problem is, once you're using lights to affect the text and you've made the whole solid 3D, you can see that we're actually not working with true 3D text. It looks like it from here, but it's actually just a 2D image that gives off the impression of being 3D. So it's possible to make 3D text using this rendering option, but it's not as efficient or nice looking. And you can still do a few things here, but I'd rather show you how to use the ray traced rendering option. So if we start a new composition and say ray traced 3D. Same thing. Okay, so what we need now is to actually get to the ray traced options. So let's start new text. Let's do Super Mario. Let's actually make this all caps. Okay. So what we can do now is make this 3D, and now we have the option for a different rendering engine. So let's do ray traced 3D. And okay, so the first thing you want to do is if you control click on this, we can set our quality. To work fast, go all the way down to 1 or some low number, and you can work with a more, and it's not going to look great, but you can work fast in it, and then we can see later what it's actually going to look like. So let's create a new solid, and let's make it black. Okay. So how to use this new ray trace 3D, we now have the option in our text in geometry options to just use extrusion depth here. So we can push it back, and let's get a camera, and we can see that we do have true 3D text in here. It doesn't look good at all. There's a lot of problems, but we have 3D text. So now let's see what we can do with it. Let's add a light, and let's first make an ambient light at 40%, and then let's make a spotlight. At a little higher, around 80. Oh. Okay. So, if we can now use this light to actually have a better idea of what this 3D text looks like. But what's really cool about the Ray Trace 3D is the ability to use an environment option to use reflection and get a really cool effect on text and anything else you're using with these new geometry options. First, let's add a bevel. Let's do something like convex and get it pretty cool looking. All right. And let's fix our spotlight a little bit so we can see everything. Okay, so let's import an image. So I have a image right here that I just pulled from the web. It's got a lot of colors in it, a lot of Mario colors in it. So let's pull this image down to our composition, and let's see. Okay, so we want to use colors from this. We want our text to reflect these colors. So if we go to the image and make sure we turn it to 3D, what we can actually do is if we right click on the image, we want an environment layer. So what this does, if we get rid of our black solid, is we now have everything in this image surrounding our text. But now we want it to actually reflect onto our text itself, so make sure that the image appears in reflections. Once you do that, you can go to your text, and now we're going to go through material options. Make sure it's accepting shadows and lights and reflections, and let's increase the reflection intensity. So as you can see, we now have reflections from the image around it in our text, which is really cool looking. And so let's do it without the actual background in there. Let's bring the black solid back up, and we still have all of these colors. And what you can do is you can start keyframing different movements in light or your background image or your camera to start making cool effects. And you can go through these material options and actually change how the reflection works. You can use the specular intensity to work with your light source and how much that's going to do for it. Or you can do the reflection intensity, how much is your text going to reflect, and how much is, and how sharp is that. So let's have about 60% sharpness and almost 90% intensity. And let's see what this looks like. Okay. So now let's see in the actual image what happens when we move where it is. So you can see that the image moves behind it and all around it, so you're actually getting different effects. So we can start keyframing this, and let's say we want it to start here. Let's shorten this composition. Start here, and then in 6 seconds end up right here. And let's have the light change from, let's zoom out a little bit in the camera. So let's have our light shift from where it is now to maybe over here, and let's do a small camera movement. Starting there and ending there. And just making a few of these keyframes, you can see a lot more of what's going on in the environment. And it's all very Mario related things that are just reflecting in your actual text, which can be very effective. And before you want to render out, you actually can control click on this again and bring it up, let's just say to 20 to get some idea, some quality with the ray trace, because right now we're working with the lowest possible quality and it still looks pretty cool. So you do that, and now your computer will freak out every time you move. But you can see how much more quality this picture is now. And to have an idea of what this looks like, I'll show you one I already finished. So as you can see, the ray traced renderer is pretty powerful, and a lot of stuff it can do, especially with the surrounding environment. And this is really just a little bit of what its capability is as far as creating an image as an environment and only working with like 2D images in this, because you can also work with any footage as well. But it's really powerful rendering engine that can do a lot more for 3D work within After Effects.